Yeah, so I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. So growing up, we were never allowed to date. We were never allowed to hang out with worldly kids. We were only allowed to hang out with other Jehovah's Witnesses because they didn't want us to be susceptible to bad association. So in high school and even younger than that, we were never taught that secular education was an option for us. We were always taught that we would graduate and become a regular pioneer. So, and what they meant by regular pioneering was preaching the Bible and God's word to all the neighbors. As you see on your doorstep on a regular basis, you have Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on your doors. So it was very repressing, like you were never allowed to kind of do what you want, be who you wanted to be, and be an individual. You always just had to be what you were told to be and do what you were told to do. Otherwise, there was repercussions. Getting back to the psychology class, in this diagram, I put religion in a conflicted area. And the girl next to me, she's like, Mary Jane, you're doing it wrong. Religion should be in your inner circle. And I said, no, mine's over here. And she looked at me, she's like, well, why would you belong to a religion that makes you unhappy? And it was just like this light bulb aha moment. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. Why am I belonging to this religion that makes me so unhappy? When I first met Michelle, she was new to our office, and she was from BC and super union girl. And we didn't have any posters up in our office. We didn't really know what was going on. The chapter that we were in under Local 45 was basically run out of High River, and so Okotoks was kind of an offshoot and never really got much attention. So Michelle took it upon herself to really get involved with AUP and actually made our Okotoks Community Care, its own chapter. And so when that happened, she was always like, Mary Jane, you need to come to these meetings. You need to get involved. And at that time, I was still a Jehovah's Witness. And I was like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, right? Not getting involved. So then after I became an LPN and left the religion, she convinced me to come to a meeting and basically told me that I was going to be treasurer secretary. I'm like, okay. I don't know what to do, but sure, right? I'm always up for something exciting and something new. Even showing up at an AUPE meeting, I never would have done that a year before because it went against every single religious belief that I'd had growing up and even into adulthood. We were to remain neutral. We pretty much, did what people told us to do unless it interfered with our religious beliefs. The government and what they said was law. So you followed the law. You maintained neutrality. You didn't go to war. You didn't fight for anything. And so fighting for workers' rights, it just would not have ever happened if I had still been a Jehovah's Witness. So when I became vice chair with Chapter 8 in Calgary, Local 45 Chapter 8, I got elected to be a local council member. With that, I was also elected to be an OH&S rep for Chapter 8. And I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do it, right? Like I said, I'm always up for something new. Let's give it a try, right? So about 6 months went by, and I said to our OH&S liaison, I'm like, am I supposed to be doing something? Like, I'm this OH&S liaison for Chapter 8, but what am I supposed to do? She's like, oh, you're supposed to go to the OH&S meetings for the community. And I'm like, where are they? So I reached out to our OH&S or WHS advisor with AHS and found the meetings and started attending those meetings. So we went to this meeting. Me and one other person were from Sheldon Schumer, and I listened to the WHS advisor and everyone around the table say how Sheldon Schumer did not need its own Workplace Health and Safety Committee. We're just like every other site. We had no unique issues, and it would just be a waste of time and money for the employer to put one in. And I sat there and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, I don't think I agree with this. but I didn't know how to stand up for myself and say, hey, this isn't accurate. So I kind of just went along with the flow, went home and called Diana Griffiths and said, this happened. We need our own committee. We are a very unique site. We have the supervised consumption site. We have opioid dependency programs in the building, 2 of them now. I work in Indigenous family medical clinic. 80% of our population in our clinic are homeless and low-income people. We have a lot of violence and a lot of intoxicated patients coming through our doors of our building. I think we're a pretty unique site, and we need to have this done in our building. So Alberta Labour Board came back and said, yes, you guys need to have your own committee, so get it together. We had an issue in a staff bathroom on my floor where we had a man who was actually trying to get into a stall where a woman was in and looking over the stall at a woman, and this happened more than once that day. We've had a patient who was just minding her own business and going into the bathroom where 2 girls that were intoxicated completely attacked her and beat her up. To see differences happening in our building is amazing. When we had those incidents with the gentleman going into the bathroom and looking over the stall and whatnot, I think about 10 My Safety Net reports came in, and the site manager was like, well, there's nothing we can do. It's an open bathroom. I know it's a staff bathroom, but it's still an open bathroom. We have to have, it's just a risk we have to take. And we were kind of like, no, it's not a risk that we should have to take. There has to be a way of protecting the employees in these bathrooms. Nobody wants to go to the bathroom when you're the most vulnerable and have someone come in and peeping at you. It's just not appropriate. So we discussed card readers for our staff bathrooms. Site manager said it'll never happen. She says there's not a budget for it, never going to happen. So we put out some emails to David Silverstone, who is charge of the workplace health and safety of NHS in our zone. I don't know if the whole thing, but at least our zone. And within 30 days, we heard back, yes, we are getting card readers. And it was just such an amazing achievement to have that happen. Because if we hadn't asked and if we hadn't have sent out those emails and had those incidences and having those instances recorded and reported, we never would have had that happen. And every time I walk by those doors, I smile, because it's just proof that the Joint Workplace Health and Safety Committee has made a difference in our building. So when I was a Jehovah's Witness, my culture was very much, you do what you're told. You never speak your mind, because speaking your mind is against what you're told to do. It's against the collective, let's say. So I always spoke my mind at home, never in front of others, because I knew that I would get in trouble. I have strong opinions. Can be very outspoken, but I always tried to hide that growing up. I tried to hide it pretty much for 40 years of my life. When I left that religion, it was the first time that I could say what I felt in my heart, and I could say what I thought in my brain without feeling scared. It's because I grew up in a society where, being a woman, you were told not to speak. Your viewpoints didn't matter, whatnot. Now that I'm out of that society, I can be an activist. I can be who I am. But everybody has to participate and stand up for each other, because without it, it's too easy for our employers to say and do things that are not safe because it's cheaper. It's easier. So as employees, we all need to stand together, report, stand up for ourselves and each other, and refuse unsafe work, which we're now allowed to do, thanks Bill 30. Through unions pushing our employers and pushing our workers' rights, we are able to come into a safe place to work, because employers aren't going to do it on their own. They don't want to spend the money. It's all about profits. And it's just not going to happen without somebody there to fight for us and to stand up for us, to say, no, you can't do this to our employees. And then for our workers, you need to protect them and make sure that there is a safe place for them to go to work. And as a single solitary worker without a union, you can't do it. You can't fight the big man or the big corporations. But with a union, and we're all in solidarity together, we all work together. And by doing that, we stand strong and we're a force to be reckoned with. For the first time, I actually stand up and say, hey, this is not right, and we have to do something about it. And it's taken me a long, long time to have that courage, because I didn't grow up with having courage to do that. You just kind of sat in the corner and was quiet and didn't make ripples in the waves because it wasn't the thing to do. So now to be able to do that and to stand up and just become an activist, like it's just was it my husband or my daughter said to me the other day, I think it's my daughter, she said, Mom, somebody asked me what you do with the union, and I told her you're an activist, is that right? I'm like, yes, absolutely, I am a union activist, and I finally feel like I am. And I really hope that my kids are watching and they see the changes that you can make in this world. And I hope that all of them will take steps to make those changes as well, if it's in a little way or any way possible, but just to always do their best and to make this world a better place by standing up for yourself, standing up for your rights, and being a voice and having a voice and being able to say what you want to say.